What is up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Somewhat Sports Podcast. My name is Chris, and I'm joined by two of the greats in this industry, Jurg and Dane. Fellas, how are we today?
Good as always. Good as always. Special episode here today. I'm feeling happy. I think we got some fun times here ahead of. It's going to be a busy week on the pod this week. I love to see it. Love to hear it. I'm super excited, of course, and I can't wait for us to talk about what we're going to talk about. We got some transactions to break down, boys. We all got to put our GM caps on. I always love it when we get a chance to be mini GMs on the show. We don't get to do it enough. I think we need to do it more.
Yeah, I'm doing good. Obviously, kind of a unexpected trade deadline after me and Chris talked about it last week. How we were really not expecting anything to happen. A lot happened today, more than we definitely expected to happen. But yeah, excited for this episode to talk about this and break it down.
Yeah, like Dame said, this will be a trade deadline episode for us. The trade deadline just passed, well, an hour ago, on the time we're recording, and a lot of stuff happened. A lot of stuff occurred. We're going to talk about it. Trade deadline has come and gone. Ooh, yeah, so the league has been shaken up. Now, we're not going to talk about every trade. There's a lot of micro transactions that occurred. We're only going to talk about the big boys. Now, Jurg, did you have any expectations for this year's deadline? I know me and Damon kind of talked about it last week, and you weren't there, so we wanted to get your thoughts on this one.
So I was hopeful. I took my little vacay last week. I was very hopeful going into this deadline that teams that I've said for years, emphasis on years, need to rebuild would finally take the steps into rebuilding. I I understand the idea that not everyone can always rebuild at the same time or at a specific time because teams it's a business, it's profits, and a rebuilding team doesn't necessarily sell. And I also do believe in the idea that teams they can have their run, but at some point it needs to come to an end. And I think a couple of teams they took, especially one. Well, you could say two in particular, but one in particular more than any other, really took steps into opening the next chapter for the franchise. And I'm always a fan of that because I'm sick of entertaining mediocre teams whenever it comes to like late season and playoff talk. Like, no, your team is not going to do anything. This team is not going to do anything. I'm not going to waste my time here. So whenever I get to see teams actually like rebuild, it's exciting to me. Like as much as it's nice, and I've seen my teams have won 6 championships in my lifetime. I know what it's like to root for a contender and to love a contending team. But at the same time, like there's something about a rebuilding team where it's like there's excitement to it, especially if you believe it can be done right. So I think if there's one thing I can say that this trade deadline produced, it's a new air of excitement for organizations going into the future. Some for contending reasons, some for what the future could hold potentially reasons. And I think that's all you can ask for when it's an NBA trade deadline. Look, as an NHL fan, the NHL trade deadline has been dog shit for years. So for the NBA trade deadline, if it can actually get a little bit, exciting here and there, I'll take it.
Yeah, I think you brought up an interesting point there, Jurg. I do love the idea of like fresh directions for teams, especially when they're kind of like when a team decides they're tearing it down, that's where I'm most interested because that means fire sale. It wasn't working. They go in a new direction, and then other teams strengthen up. New contenders arise. Just storylines everywhere. Unless you're the Knicks or the Lakers who decide to stand pat and just not do anything this trade deadline. Um, yeah, I got a little emotional there. Like, I hope Tibbs gets fucking fired, bro. All right, anyway. So we have a couple trades to talk about. Let's start with I think a minor one that occurred last week. This is before all the noise came out. I don't know. Me and Dame. I think it might have occurred after me and Dame recorded. Karis LeVert has gone to the Cleveland Cavaliers. The trade is Karis LeVert and a 2022 second round pick via Jurg's team, the Miami Heat. And the Pacers will get Ricky Rubio's expiring contract. He won't play for the rest of the season. A lottery protected 2022 first round pick, a 2022 second round pick, and a 2027 second round pick. The lottery protected 2022 first round pick, I think that will convey. The Cavs look like they're making the playoffs, so I don't think it'll be in the 1 through 14 range. So Pacers get another first round pick right there, fellas. I think I love this move for both. I love this move for both teams. Again, I don't give a shit about either team, but I do love the move for both teams. The Cavs get that scoring guard that will resume the role that Colin Sexton was supposed to fill. but Sexton is likely out for the season. I think this is a perfect fit. Karis LeVert will take the scoring load off of Darius Garland in the offense. So they get their guy. I think he'll be extremely useful, especially in the playoffs as well. So I really love the move for the Cavs here. They needed to make a move, especially with Rubio, who was great this year, and Sexton both being out. And obviously they were a little thin in the guard department. So yeah, and for the Pacers, you had Rubio's contract. He'll be done by this offseason, so salary cap opens up there. And then for them, they look like they're in a whole rebuild right now. And we'll talk about another trade that occurred, and they get another first round pick. So obviously, when a team decides to blow it up and they get a first round pick out of any deal, it's a huge plus. And they get a couple second rounders there as well, which is awesome for them. So guys, not much to say about it. I think it benefits both parties. One is clearly the rebuild, and they get draft capital, and then the other one, who seems to be going to the playoffs, get a score and another offensive threat. So big W for both teams. Guys, any minor thoughts on it? I don't think we have to go too deep into this. Jurg, let me start off with you.
Yeah, no, it's kind of like you said. I think Indiana was one of those teams I referenced. They got pieces that they could sell off. We talked about this quite a while ago, I want to say, maybe like a month and a half ago, Chris. Indiana had some real pieces they could sell off, and LeVert was just the first of it and assigned it to come. I think it was a great thing. Like, a guy like LeVert, he's a pretty good player, 18 points per game this season, score. He could create his own shot. You could also, like, dish it to him for some catch and shoot. Like, he's got a lot of people I saw say that he's not going to help Cleveland. I don't get it, because I think with Colin Sexton out, I think you needed that score next to Garland. And I think the thing is that I would argue LeVert's probably better for Garland than Sexton is, because I think Sexton needs the ball quite a bit. LeVert he's not ball dominant. I think this just allows Garland to flourish more as the all-star caliber guard he is becoming. He's made amazing strides this year, as this whole team has. Cleveland's really surprising a lot of people for the first time without LeBron since like the 90s. So in all seriousness, like, this is a great pickup by Cleveland, and let's be real here, it didn't really cost them a lot. Like, I think what this deadline is it made people realize that, like, some of the wild trades we've seen in the last couple of off seasons, like, those were one-offs. Like, the market's kind of resetting itself in terms of some trade expectations. Now, I do think some guys were undersold, but I don't think LeVert was. Expiring deal, couple seconds, first round pick. Like, W for both sides here.
Yeah, same thing that you guys said. It's a W for both sides. Pacers obviously trying to go through a rebuild, so they had to get rid of some valuable assets. They got a first round pick, couple seconds, and obviously Ricky Rubio's expiring deal, which gives them a lot of cap space this offseason. And for the Cavs, obviously no one expected them to be where they're at now. So they're, for the first time in a while, they're looking to buy at the trade deadline. And adding a guy like Karis LeVert, it's extremely good for them because, like you guys said, they add that score on the wing. And I know Chris mentioned kind of a substitute for Colin Sexton, who's been out this year, but I think it's honestly an improvement over Colin Sexton, because when Sexton and Garland play together on the court together, they're extremely small backcourt, and offenses take advantage of them on defense. But now putting Karis LeVert there next to Darius Garland, like, you have kind of a bigger two. That I'm not saying Karis LeVert is the greatest defender ever, but he's a lot better and bigger than Colin Sexton is, which will definitely help them out as well.
Yeah, for sure. And Dame, I think, predicted it last week that LeVert would be a good fit for the Cavs. So we got that right. All right. Let's move on to another deal. This actually occurred today, but I'm gonna go on the level of conversation-inducing, moves. Made that up myself. All right, so Kristaps Porzingis has been traded to the Washington Wizards for Spencer Dinwiddie and Davis Bertans. Wow, did this move come out of nowhere? Holy shit! So we've talked about this a lot, guys. The Mavs, they're in 5th place right now. It seemed like Luka's generational talent. They re-signed Tim Hardaway Jr., and they have Porzingis. And Porzingis is not that, cannot be your running mate in order to win a championship. He's just not that guy. But he's also making like $30+ million a year. And what's the trade value? What's the market value for him? So I think that, like, we talked about this. The Mavs are probably, like, they're a good team, but they have a ceiling, How are you going to make a move in order to get rid of that ceiling? So, for that ceiling to increase because you have such a generational talent, Luka, you have to take advantage of that. So The problem was, what were you going to get for Porzingis? Because realistically, to make a move that big in order to kind of change the trajectory of your team, you would have to get rid of Porzingis. And market wasn't that crazy. I mean, let's be honest. Porzingis has injury history. He's not the same player he was when he was in New York. So they traded him for Spencer Dinwiddie and Davis Bertans. Now, there was reports that Dinwiddie was having issues in the locker room with some of the Wizards players. Who knows what will happen with the Mavericks? But let's just talk about strictly the play style and just the players here. Dinwiddie, another ball handler who could kind of create his own shot. So he'll take some of the pressure off Luka. So I kind of like that fit. And you have Davis Bertans, who has one of the worst contracts in the NBA. His shooting has regressed. Like, he was one of the best shooters in the league. Then he just kind of collapsed after he signed that deal. Luka will find him. I think I am hopeful. I mean, I don't really care, but I am hopeful that Bertans will have a resurgence, and I think just being next to Luka and Luka finding him will kind of help him get back to the player he once was. I don't think he's ever going to match the value of his contract, but for him to be at least if he's hitting shots, this is a huge asset for them. But I'm not going to put all my marbles on that because I don't know if I have trust in Davis Bertans to make that leap. But I think. I don't know. So I kind of like this deal for the Mavs. I don't necessarily know how much it moves the needle for them, but Porzingis was barely playing, so they just had to get rid of Porzingis. Dinwiddie, this is his first year of a 3-year deal, so maybe it's easier to move his contract after this year. Who knows? And for the Wizards, it seems like they are blowing it up. Bradley Beal just announced that he's out for the season with a wrist surgery. And then, of course, I mean, they got rid of 2 pretty bad contracts. I mean, Porzingis' contract ain't bad, but to honestly get rid of Bertans' contract, that's a huge W for them. I don't know. I don't necessarily know where the Wizards go with this move. Do they build around Porzingis? Is he a building block for them as they kind of, head into this new era where it seems like Bradley Beal's kind of done with the Wizards? Don't necessarily know because Porzingis isn't 21, 22, but, he's still somewhat young, but he has injury history. Don't necessarily know. I don't like I'm not a fan of. I'm not comfortable saying there's a clear winner in this one. I think they're both whatever moves. I don't necessarily know how much it moves the needle for either team, but I would say if one team is a winner, it would maybe be the Wizards because they got rid of the Bertans contract. So, Dame, let me go with you. Let me go with you first on this one. I know you're a big Porzingis guy. What do you make of this trade for both teams?
It's just funny how Porzingis' value has went down since he went to the Mavericks, and the Knicks were shit on for getting rid of him for all the stuff that they got in their deal. But as for this trade, honestly, this is a trade where I don't see a clear winner as it is right now. I think it's to kind of wait and see with this trade because Porzingis, although he is broken down and he has a terrible contract, like we've said this for years and years now, like there's still that potential there. And honestly, there still is that potential there. You never know. Even if they decide to keep Beal, like you never know what Porzingis could turn into. If Porzingis turns into a guy that can average 20 and 8 and shoot pretty well from the outside and stretch the floor for Bradley Beal, and then they add another guy, whether it's a trade or free agency or something like that, like the Wizards could have something going there. But if he is the same Porzingis who misses half the season and is inconsistent and can't hit jump shots and just relies on that jump shot, like it's not gonna be good for them. And as for the Mavs, like it's also wait and see because you don't know what you're getting with Spencer Dinwiddie and with Davis Bertans. Obviously, Bertans has that big contract and he hasn't lived up to it. If he could turn around and be the Bertans that on the Spurs that got the deal that he has now and is able to spread the floor and shoot the ball and spread the floor for Luka and make it easier for him on that offense, like. And with the addition of Spencer Dinwiddie, who's definitely had an awful year, but if you go back to the guy he was on the Nets back in the day, those two can turn around. It'd be obviously great for the Mavs as well because it takes a lot of pressure off Luka and makes his game a lot easier, and obviously makes that offense a lot better for the Mavs by giving them more options. But as of right now, as it stands, like I can't really give you a clear winner because I don't know what these players are going to turn into on these new teams. Because currently they've all been kind of disappointments for where they were at. But maybe a change of scenery is going to change it for them, and it'll be beneficial to the teams they were traded for. But for this trade specifically, I think it's a kind of wait and see.
So I ultimately agree. I think it's a wait and see. What I think this does for the Mavericks, first off, the reason why they got Dinwiddie is an insurance policy. Jalen Brunson is going to be a free agent this offseason. It's not a guarantee that they could keep him. And I think the fear of losing him had them get Dinwiddie because let's be real here. Like in a vacuum, I know Dinwiddie's older, but like Dinwiddie and Brunson are kind of like they serve the same purpose on that team. They're there ultimately to be another guy who could create a shot for himself and also like know their role. Like anyone who understands whatever the Dinwiddie thing in Washington was, like he's going to go on that team and he immediately understands like, okay, Luka Doncic is the guy. Like, let's be real here. Like, yes, here's Spencer Dinwiddie's a fine player, but that's Luka Doncic and future MVP of the league. So I think if you are the Mavericks, you essentially just got a potential replacement in case you can't keep Brunson. And the thing is that like if they do end up keeping Brunson, like Brunson, Hardaway, if they can figure out to keep Dinwiddie in, fine. But look, here's the thing. I always hear guys are untradeable, bad contracts, whatever. Once you've been traded once, you can be traded again. So if they end up signing Brunson in the offseason and they can't keep Dinwiddie, they could replace Dinwiddie. Or they could trade Dinwiddie again, excuse me. Like someone will take a Spencer Dinwiddie. He is not an untradeable player, no matter what anybody says. Like he will be had. Davis Bertans, this is the interesting thing. I think, like you said, Chris, he needs to have resurgence. I think he will. Like people forget it was his it was his first year in Washington that earned him the contract. A lot of people think he got paid right after that Spurs deal. No, right after Spurs. No. He was sent to Washington, and his time, or maybe it was a trade midseason, I forget. But essentially, his time in Washington helped earn him the deal. He was shooting over 40% from three with the Spurs. He was shooting just under 40% from three in his time with the Wizards when he got paid. Here's the thing about this deal and why it's become so bad. From last year to this year, he's gotten 11 less minutes per game. Now, give me a shooter in the league that will stay in their rhythm with that much playing time cut away from them. Like, I know it's not the same for every team. I know not every coach has the same philosophy, but in Miami, Duncan Robinson has the green light every single time he's out there. If Duncan is 0 for 5, Spoelstra will literally want him to shoot the 6th shot and the 7th shot and the 8th shot. Damned if you make it, damned if you miss it. So Davis Bertans needs to go to a team that's going to allow him a little bit of leeway here. I'm sorry, spoiler, you can't just give a guy 15 minutes out there and expect for him to figure it out, and if not, like, you shorten the leash. That's not how it works. He got so many DNPs recently. It's like, so you want a shooter to just come in cold every single time? Like, I'm not saying it's entirely like on Washington. Like, yes, Bertans, obviously there's a reason why there was fall off. But I also think the roster construction just did not fit him the same this year, man. I just don't think it did. Like all the pieces they brought in, Kuzma playing well, Montrezl Harrell, I know he did get moved at this deadline, but Trez taking up playing time, like I just don't think it worked well for him. Now he's going to a Mavericks team where he's going to be expected to perform. And I think, again, Luka and Giannis to me are starting to have the LeBron effect where it's like if you put a shooter on that team, like they're going to have some good games with those guys because they draw extra defenders. They could find them wide open on the wings and in corners. Like, I think Bertans is going to play a lot better on Dallas. Like, I agree with you guys. I'm not going to give a winner here, but like, let's say knife to my throat. If you told me you must name a winner here, I'm naming Dallas because I think both these contracts, like I said, if you've been traded once, you can be traded again. If Dallas needs to be more flexible, if they need to get rid of both these guys within a year or two, if there's a free agent out there, they could pair a real star with Luka, you can get out of these deals, especially if you can get Bertans to perform. Like, shooting is so valuable. That contract will look a lot better if he gets back up to close to 40% from three. If they trade him and end up trying to get a star in the process, like, it's a lot more flexible for them to trade Bertans and Dinwiddie again than it would have been to trade Porzingis without this. Who, by the way, next year cap hit $34 million. Year after that, which is he's most likely going to pick up $36 million. Like, it's a lot easier to move these guys than Porzingis. So if I had to name a winner, Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that. Yeah, I guess it's easy. It's gonna be easier for me and Dame to root for the Mavs now that KP is gone because we all love Luka. Yeah, I think with the Wizards, they accumulate this extra piece of a core they're trying to build post Bradley Beal. So maybe that attributes to like my reasoning for picking them here. So I guess I'm thinking more long term, but yeah, in terms of now, obviously I think the Mavs win here, but who knows? Who really knows? Just a weird deal that just came out of nowhere. All right, let's move on over to Josh Hart, Thomas Satoransky, Nikhil Alexander-Walker, and a 2022 first-round pick. I'm not sure about the protections on that. And then 2 future second-round picks are going to the Portland Trail Blazers in exchange for C.J. McCollum, Larry Nance Jr., and Tony Snell. Let's just disregard the last two and just say it's C.J. McCollum. I think Larry Nance Jr. is out anyway because he had an injury. And also the Blazers also did trade Nickeil Alexander-Walker for Joe Ingles' expiring contract. For whatever reason, I don't know. Clearly, they want to just have a crazy amount of cap space to build around Damian Lillard and re-sign Damian Lillard. When, in my opinion, they should have just kept Nickeil Alexander-Walker and just blow everything up. But they just seem to have a different plan on their own, which whatever at this point. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about the Blazers long term here. Maybe we will, but C.J. McCollum's gone. Let's just get the Blazers out of the way here. I don't. It's so clearly they're clearing the cap, right? I don't even know if they're blowing it up if you're keeping Lillard, right? So I don't know what the direction is. But you get Thomas Satoransky, he'll probably be a whatever piece, non-existent. Nickeil Alexander's gone. Alexander Walker's gone, which I think is a huge blow because I'm a fan of his. And then, you do get some draft capital, so I guess you have something there. If you want to, for example, trade for another startup pair with Lillard. And I don't know what they're going to do with Josh Hart, but Josh Hart also isn't young anymore. He's 26. So I think he's a decent piece for them. I actually do like Josh Hart a lot. So if they are to, for example, build around Lillard and, that's what their direction is going forward, I do think Josh Hart is a good role player to have. And he's on a very cheap deal, I believe. He's on he signed for 3 years, but only the first year is guaranteed, which is really weird. So you also have they could honestly get rid of Josh Hart if they wanted to, but in my opinion, they shouldn't. So again, the ripple effect this has on the Blazers, I'm not sure about because I don't know what they want. If they want to build around Lillard and they just want to have the whole slate clean, I guess it's a success because they're really under the cap space now. And you get some draft capital, which is never bad. So I guess there's also possibilities to rebuild as well if they go that route. Let's talk about the Pelicans. They get C.J. McCollum. Guys, the Pelicans are in 10th place right now. They start off horrendously, but now they're in the play-in tournament as of now. Now, I think the Lakers and the Clippers, I think they're the ones that are ahead of them in 9th and 8th, but I don't think they're going to catch up to them because, who knows the Lakers at this point? Who knows the Clippers at this point? I just don't see it happening. But it's clear that they're win-now mode. They are in win-now mode. I think all the question stems from, when will Zion get back? And when he does come back, we're going to make a little bit of a run. Quote-unquote run. What your definition of run is, I don't know. I don't know what it is either. But it's clear that they want to win now. They have a roster of, as of now, Brandon Ingram, Jonas Valanciunas, Devontae Graham, and of course, when he comes back, Zion Williamson. And I think C.J. McCollum does fit well with that roster. Yeah. And also they have some really good young pieces in Jackson Hayes, Trey Murphy, and Herb Jones. They're clearly in the win-now mode. Why I think they're going to make the play-in tournament, actually. Whether it's 10th or above that, I think they are because behind them, what do they have? It's the Thunder, Rockets, Spurs,
and the Kings.
Well, that's the one team I actually do want to talk about here because the Kings,
we'll get to them. Yeah.
I think, weirdly enough, are the only realistic threat to the Pelicans for that 10th spot. I do think they are because the Kings are 2.5 back from them, and the other teams that I listed are clearly tearing it down. Where the Kings seem to have made moves to try and win now. So I think the Kings, for example, but again, the Kings, you can never call them a real threat. We're talking about threats to a 10th seed, man. It's crazy what we're talking about. But do I like the move for the Pelicans? It seemed like it's. I think it's a good move. I do think it's a good move because you got C.J. McCollum, and I do think the talent fits, right? And with Zion Williamson coming back, they're going to get better. I think they're going to get a lot better. But I do think this is kind of a Hail Mary for David Griffin because I think his job is on the line. So I don't want to talk about purgatory teams because the Knicks are in there right now, but I feel like the Western Conference is kind of opening up now. It's not as stacked as the East. So I think when healthy, and they have all these weapons now, because I do think they're kind of loaded with offensive weapons. Defense is an issue, but with Ingram and Jonas Valanciunas blowing up, and with Zion coming back, Graham's a little hit or miss because he could be hot or cold depending on which day. I do like this move for them. I do think they'll be dangerous if they do make the play-in. I don't know what their goal will be going forward. I'm assuming they're going to push to win because Zion, you're going to have to repay Zion, and like you need to like regain Zion's trust. There was a little bit of reporting on like maybe they're not seeing eye to eye, but rookie extensions are always signed. Who knows? He could have signed a qualifying offer, but yeah, I do like this for them. Ultimately, I do think they're trying to win now. Do think it's a good move. I do think they will win. To what extent, not sure, but it is, in my opinion, a winnable move. And I already spoke about the Blazers. So, who did I go with last time? First, I'll go with Jurg on that. I think I started with Dame last time because it was the Porzingis thing. So, Jurg, what do you think about this move?
So I'll go with the Pelicans' perspective first off. I think it was the right move. I think they need another score in there because you just cannot trust Zion right now to bring in a guy in CJ McCollum. Yeah, he got hurt this season, but he's still averaging 20 points per game. He's averaged 20 points per game for 7 straight seasons, and he's the only player who has done that in the last like 10, 15 years that didn't make at least one All-Star game in that stretch of his 20 point per game seasons in a row. So like CJ's a good guy. We saw it like peak CJ McCollum a couple years back during the Blazers playoff run where it's like people always want to mark it as like Damian Lillard going that far. CJ McCollum won that game 7 against the Denver Nuggets in that second round. I'm just saying. I think CJ's amazing. Him and Brandon Ingram, I think, can play well off each other. He's not really a facilitator or point guard per se, even though he's the height of one. But just as a guy who could create his own shot and kind of open it up for other guys if he can get on fire, but really more so like if he's got his mid range going, just get out of his way. Like he's one of the few like mid range technique guys left in the game. Like I think Chris Paul, DeMar DeRozan are the top 2, and then maybe you could argue CJ is either top 3 or top 5 in terms of like mid range guys in the league now. CJ's great, stretch the floor. Like he's been on. I don't technically want to call them winning teams, but Portland always did make the playoffs ever since he started his career there. So he's got plenty of playoff experience. He's been on a run to a Western Conference final. I think that's what New Orleans really needed from a guy, and he can still contribute in a real way. Like you said, that they're just trying to wait for Zion to get back if he'll ever get back, and stop doing whatever he's doing to get injured. I don't know if him at this point. I'm really starting to get sick and tired of Zion in general in the league. But I think
I have seen this actually from a few people.
Dude, I'm just saying you don't have a right if you've accomplished nothing in the game to demand out. I'm just saying, like you're not Anthony Davis, you're not Luka, you're not Giannis. Stop it. I'm not going to hear Knicks talk. I don't want to hear. The other Duke Blue Devil y'all traded for, you're not even playing him. So let's not start.
But I do think he wants a change of scenery for some reason.
Okay,
which I don't know why though. Because
look, I'm all for player empowerment. You don't have the effing right to do that. You just got in the league, so sit your butt down. Well, actually, no, stop sitting your butt down. Get out there and play for the team. And if you don't win, then you can say you want to get out of there.
Was that a bad joke, Jurg?
He's played 50 games. He's played like 50 total games over 3 seasons. Zion has contributed to the Pelicans winning as much as this podcast has. Like, come on, son.
Damn.
It's so annoying, but rant aside, I think this is a much-needed deal for New Orleans. They're playing like a 500 team ever since the start of the season when they start, like, was it 1-12 or 1-13? I right now, they are the favorite for the 10th seed. Like you said, the Kings have a chance at threatening that, but it's the Kings, and we're talking about the 10th seed. Dear God, what has the play-in done to the league now? But I think at the end of the day, like, New Orleans needs to make a deal, even if you forget Zion for a moment. For Brandon Ingram, for some of the guys on that team that actually are playing, but especially BI, like they need to make a deal. And I think Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum are a nice complement to each other. I think the two of them will play really well. Let me skip to Portland really fast here, just super quick. I kind of threw a little bit of shot at the beginning when I was talking about teams rebuilding, and one of them didn't necessarily fully commit to it. Portland, that's who I was throwing my barbs at. I am so sick and tired of this goddamn organization. They're the Tennessee Titans of the NBA for me. I am so annoyed at the fact that they finally had the chance here. And if they had waited till the summer to trade Lillard, okay, that's cool. But now it's reported that they're not doing this to ultimately end up trading Lillard and have the ultimate tear up. No. They're trying to clear up cap space and get more free agents. Who the fuck wants to play in Portland, Oregon? Who would choose willingly, say, in the prime of their life, in the prime of their career, who would say, you know what, I want to play in Portland, Oregon? Not Los Angeles, not Miami, not New York, not with Luka, not with Giannis, not with Ja Morant. No, I want to play in Portland, Oregon, which is closer to Vancouver than the Oregon coastline, by the way. And I want to play with Damian Lillard, who's only made it out of the first round twice. And every single year in the playoffs, he either loses in a sweep or loses in a 5.
And he's 32.
Like, oh my God, Portland, you can't even do a teardown right. I'm done. They just traded guys just to trade him, because I actually do think you could have got a little bit more out of CJ McCollum. I think you could have got a little bit more about Norman Powell and Robert Covington, which I don't know if you were gonna talk about that.
I was, but I'm just like, eh.
Like, yeah, let's just group that together here. And then that 3-team deal where they traded Nickeil Alexander-Walker for Joe Ingles. Are you effing kidding me? You can't even say that you want to clear up cap space in that, because Nickeil Alexander-Walker's on a rookie contract, goddammit. And he was not a top 5 pick, which means his rookie contract is not that much compared to other first-round picks. Like, I'm done with this team. I wish no success for them. I want Damian Lillard to be traded. I'm done with Portland. I don't even want them to have a good rebuild. I want Portland to struggle for the next decade because of this. Because you could have done the rebuild perfectly. You had the top 2 pieces, aside from Dame, to trade. You could have gotten more out of CJ. You could have gotten at least a first-round pick out of Yusuf Nurkic, in my opinion. And Dame is the ultimate trade chip. He's the guy that teams actually would trade 3-4 first-round picks and a couple prospects for. And you screw it all up. Done with this team. Dame, go. I'm done with Portland.
Yeah, so I'm going to have a different take on this trade than you guys. I actually think both these teams are losers in this trade. Starting with the Pelicans, I believe they're losers because although they are kind of creeping up to that play-in game and they're obviously kind of on the rise, I still think that they're a rebuilding team and they need to keep their youth and kind of still develop it slowly. I know they kind of maybe feel a lot of pressure from the whole Zion situation and how he's unhappy and stuff and need to build a winner. But I never feel that rushing a process that's so like their team was so bad and they're so like at the bottom. I feel like rushing it doesn't help and actually makes it worse. So I feel like they should just kept going at it slowly, especially since Zion's not even back. So like I feel like all due respect, like him or his camp can't really complain about the team not being good or not going the right direction when he's not even on the court, he's not even healthy, and he's not playing, and he can't make an impact himself. So honestly, he should just shut up, and his camp should shut up until he's healthy enough to play consistently on an everyday basis and perform at a high level. Until then, he should just keep his mouth shut and keep rehabbing, and may lose some weight. But
what is with it, bro? Like mad fat jokes. Jeez, guys, let's be better.
It just doesn't make. It's not fat jokes. It's out of shape jokes. It's
Nah. You think he's fat, bro? Shut up.
I'm both out of shape and fat, so I'm technically allowed to.
How about we just let's just get rid of that Mountain Dew commercial? All right, go ahead, Dave.
How about he just stops eating so much and actually works out? But okay, honestly, like I said, I just think he should get on the court before he starts complaining and stuff. And like the Pelicans should have just took the slow instead of going for an older guy like CJ McCollum, an undersized guard who's not going to help one of their main problems, which is their defense. Obviously, he's going to help their scoring on the wing because he's an established veteran that's obviously known for scoring the ball. And he's been there in the playoffs and stuff. But trading a guy like Nickeil Alexander and Josh Hart, 2 young guys who play the same position as CJ McCollum. Josh Hart is obviously a way better defender than he is. I think just having both those guys that are young and kind of could develop in the Pelican system is a lot more valuable than bringing a guy like CJ McCollum with a bigger contract, less defense, older. He's had his injury history as well. Like I don't think that helps him at all in any way. It's obviously adding a bigger name and it kind of looks cooler. Maybe it sends a message to Zion, but like I said, I don't think anything Zion says should really matter. But yeah, for the Pelicans, I just think it's a loss because I think they should have just stayed with the youth movement instead of trying to like expedite this rebuilding thing and adding a guy like CJ McCollum. But as for the Portland Trailblazers, I just think it's a loss for them because I just think they're such a lost franchise that really anything they kind of do is a loss until they either trade Damian Lillard and go fully rebuild or somehow in a miraculous way they add a superstar to really give them a formidable force. But until then, I think anything they do right now is an L. And trading away CJ McCollum after you want to build a contender around Damian Lillard and getting 2 young guys and trading one of them away for even worse players and second-round picks, I'm pretty sure. Essentially for nothing, they traded Nickeil Alexander away. So it really doesn't make sense to me what they're doing out there. Like you either are going to rebuild and tear it all down or you're going to give up the whatever draft pick assets or young player assets you have to bring them in and try to make yourself more of a contender than you are now. So I just think the Portland Trailblazers are lost as a franchise and they have no idea what they're doing. Obviously, we saw reports that they're kind of gearing up for the offseason with cap space and stuff, but I don't know if people watch ESPN today, but they showed a graphic of the free agents. Like, there literally is nobody that the Trailblazers could go on and add and be like, yeah, this is the guy we opened up all this cap space for, and now we're going to be a better team, and it all made sense. Like, Bradley Beal, whether he opts out or not, he's probably not, and he's going to ask for a trade. He's not going to go to Portland Trailblazers. I promise you that. Guys like Kyrie Irving, John Wall, and Russell Westbrook have player options. They're all going to opt in. Zach LaVine's probably going to resign with the Bulls. James Harden obviously opted in with the 76ers. Like, the Blazers have really nowhere to go. And these young, quote-unquote, assets that they got in these trades, obviously they traded one away with Alexander. But Josh Hart and these draft picks that they got aren't that valuable. Like, they're not going to go get you whoever may be on the trade market. So, for the Pelicans, they just shouldn't have rushed it and Portland Trailblazers just as a franchise as a whole loss. So I view this trade as a loss for both teams.
Okay. A little bit of a cop-out answer, but yeah.
Cop-out answer. So
you had to choose one, man. I would have said they both lost two, but whatever. Okay. Yeah, how do you trade Nickeil Alexander-Walker, man? Like, Jesus Christ, bro. Like, who are they going to trade for in the offseason? Well, you want Julius Randle? Oh, God, I'll give you Julius Randle for free, bro. I'll give that dude for free.
Just literally
take him.
Give me a 2028 protected second round pick.
Honestly, they may be so inept. I'll ask for Josh Hart just to see where my luck's at. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. I don't know who they think they're going to get. Lillard's 32. Whatever, bro. Man, why can't we own NBA teams sometimes? Whatever, let's move on. Speaking of questionable trades, the Sacramento Kings have traded Tristan Thompson, Buddy Hield, and Tyrese Halliburton to the Indiana Pacers for, let me get the draft things right, protected 2022 second-round pick, Justin Holiday, Jeremy Lamb, and Domantas Sabonis. All right, Pacers, I would say the winners of this trade. We've talked about this before when we brought about the Caris LeVert trade. They're in a rebuild, right? I thought, I think it was before the Turner injury, it was going to be between them trading Sabonis or Turner, and I was leaning towards more Turner. But Turner got hurt, and I was like, all right, maybe they'll trade him the offseason, but they're going to keep Sabonis. Sabonis is still like 25, bro. Like, you can still kind of build around him, but it's hard for the Pacers to attract free agents. They trade Sabonis, they go full on into the rebuild, and they get Tyrese Halliburton. Man, talk about expediting the process. You get your franchise point guard out of this trade. That I read that they were surprised that Halliburton was up for grabs. They got their guy going forward. Their rebuild accelerates now. And again, they get probably the top two hardest position to fill, especially in a team that is, a team that finds it difficult to attract talent, to find talent. But they get a guy who essentially is theirs for the next 7 years. They have, they have his rookie extension. They could re-sign him. And Tyrese Halliburton is that guy that I'm pretty sure he will re-sign with them. All right, let's go to the Kings here. Okay, so Thompson obviously is a throw-in. Whatever. Buddy Hield has been in trade rumors since, we were in high school. They finally get rid of him. Sabonis is a really good player. And the Kings were always rumored to like Sabonis. But, they get him. They pair him with Fox. And I guess Harrison Barnes. Wow. I remember we talked about the draft. Jurg, they drafted Davion Mitchell. I'm like, okay, they're gonna have to trade one of the guards, and we're like, it has to be De'Aaron Fox, right? It makes the most sense. He's the oldest here. Tyrese Halliburton has the highest ceiling. They're obviously gonna keep Tyrese Halliburton. If there's anyone that should be untouchable, it's Tyrese Halliburton. But they go with De'Aaron Fox. Now I'm a big fan of De'Aaron Fox. Wow. Oh, they went with him, and this is very difficult to explain why they would get rid of Tyrese Halliburton. It's like the Sacramento Kings haven't been to the playoffs in 16 years. How do you guys go upon this? How? do they want to win now? What does win now mean? Like making the play-in tournament, which is, I guess, huge for Sacramento.
For Sacramento, yeah, that's the standard.
Like their reasoning is they want to quote win now. I'm just gonna use that term, win now. Butts and seats, that type of stuff. Something needs to happen. So you get, and I'm assuming they think Fox is more polished, so like they're gearing towards the present. But you do not trade Tyrese Halliburton, man. Like he has a higher ceiling. Like character is so important in a player, especially if he's going to be like one of, if not the face of your franchise going forward. He talked about it. He's like, yo, we're not going to take, I'm not going to take like what is being said about us now, what has been said about us in the past. I want to be here. And Tyrese Halliburton looks like a really good kid. Like what a perfect guy to kind of build your team around. Great passer, could score. The shot is translated. You don't trade Tyrese Halliburton, bro. I don't care if like he's so good that like you could still win now with him, man. I thought Fox would be the one to go, but it's clear that they won with him, and like I don't want people to think it's a shot towards Fox, but sheesh, man, I feel like there had to be a market for Fox, bro, where you could just like surround Halliburton with appropriate pieces and shooters and all that, and find him maybe a center. Maybe give De'Aaron Fox for Miles Turner or something. But I don't know. It's so difficult to explain this decision. But is it difficult? Because it is the Sacramento Kings. But they beat the Timberwolves last night. So that's a W. Any of you could jump in right now. Again, for the Pacers, this is a clear W. They get their guy. Kings, they get rid of their guy. It's Kings shit. What are we going to do about it? Dame, what do you think about this?
Yeah, obviously, like you said, Pacers a clear winner in this trade. No one, obviously, in the league thought Tyrese Halliburton was the guy that was even on the block, or definitely not the guy that was going to get traded. Everyone thought that was probably going to be De'Aaron Fox, and obviously Buddy Hield, like you said, trade rumors since we were in high school, and he finally gets moved. Many people probably thought that either whether it was one of the point guards that him and Buddy Hield probably separated, but here they are in a package deal together. Kings get rid of Buddy Hield finally, but no one thought that Halliburton was going to be traded because of how good he was and how young, and obviously, like you said, that character that he has. He said that he just wants to ride the ship. He wants to be here. He wants to turn it around, and like obviously, when you play on the Kings, that's kind of hard to say. It's kind of even hard to lie about it, but whether he was telling the truth or not. And I know a lot of people, a lot of reports said that like Halliburton was really distraught and he was crying after this trade happened. That's how much he really wanted to stay there. So that kind of tells you a lot about his character. But honestly, it's best for him. Now he's going to Indiana, a stable organization that's really going to help him develop in the right ways and put the right team around him. He obviously has Buddy Hield there with him. That's going to help, but. For the Pacers, it's still honestly they were trying to get rid of Sabonis to kind of rebuild, and I always think getting a guard is definitely better than getting a big because this league is run on wings and guards, so it's definitely a beneficial for them that kind of position change of franchise players. But as for the Kings, man, I don't know what they're doing. Honestly, I think they probably could have gotten the straight down with De'Aaron Fox and get the center around De'Aaron Fox and get a bonus, and they could have kept Halliburton and had Sabonis and Halliburton as their kind of core two guys going forward, but they're the Kings, man. Like, this is what they do. They got rid of the one, honestly, bright young star that they had, and there's really no explanation for that when they could have just done a deal right around De'Aaron Fox, a guy who's making a lot more and doesn't have that kind of potential, maybe character that Halliburton has. And this is not even shitting on Sabonis. Like, Sabonis is a great player. He's done great things. He's still going to do great things, but honestly, it's kind of hard to defend getting rid of Halliburton for a big like this, who's not the most athletic, not the greatest defender. He's not going to go out there and dominate the game like these other bigs do, like Anthony Davis or Embiid or Jokic. Like, but definitely Kings losers and Pacers winners.
So, I've had conversations regarding this trade, and I think I've been misunderstood on my breakdown of this deal. So I'm going to be very crystal clear when it comes to my thoughts on this trade. Did the Pacers win this by a wide margin? Of course. Of course. We all love this is a pro Tyrese Halliburton show. In the early stages of our podcast, it was that very same 2020 draft that we actually did, Chris, and both you and me were massive fans of Tyrese Halliburton coming out of college. I loved him as a even potential. I was arguing even for him to be like a real top 10 pick, and I forget what pick he was with the Kings. I think
12.
yeah, so just outside. I was arguing he could have been a real top 10 pick. I think we were on the same wavelength there. Just like the talent, how good he was in his second year in college. I think it showed that he was going to be really good in the pros. So big Tyrese Halliburton show here for the Pacers to get him, like Dame said, like you guys have alluded to, like I forget if I think it was Woj that said like the Pacers were shocked. No one around the league expected that Tyrese Halliburton could have been had in a trade, or else trust me, a lot of teams would have called about that. But the Kings ended up trading him to the Pacers. I know you broke down the full trade here, Chris, but it's the Kings also got back Jeremy Lamb and Justin Holiday in this trade. And of course, going back the other way, it was Thompson, Buddy Hield. Tristan Thompson's probably going to get bought out. And he's probably going to be sought after by one of these contending teams that need a big man. Philadelphia definitely could be in the market, but we'll get to them in just a moment here on the show. But the main things here are my two things with this deal. Number one, of course, amazing by the Pacers because Tyrese Halliburton, of course, franchise piece to go around. Like when the thing with tearing things down is you want to try to pick out your franchise piece going forward. They don't have to worry about it. This is one of the cornerstones right here for the rebuild with Tyrese Halliburton. So phenomenal trade there. My only disappointment on the Pacers side, well, I have two disappointments actually when it comes to the Pacers. Number one, I think they should have tried to trade Buddy Hield here at the deadline. I'm not saying they didn't try. I'm just saying I think they should have pushed for it because I think another first-round pick could have been had here with Buddy Hield. I think you could have gotten a first for him from a contending team. Now, my second part, so this translates to my next thing. I don't understand why nobody wants to give Domantas Sabonis a little bit more credit than what he's really done. The last 3 seasons, he averages 19 points, 12.5 rebounds, and 5 assists per game, and has been a 2-time All-Star. Now, I'm not saying this for the Kings' perspective. I'm saying this for the Pacers' perspective. The Pacers could have gotten a first-round pick out of this deal and should have gotten another first-round pick out of this deal. It should have been Halliburton, Hield, I guess Tristan Thompson, who they should be buying out, and a first-round pick. Like, did the Pacers win this? Yes. But if they had gotten a first-round pick too, man, what kind of deal that would have been. And I know some people were probably saying, like, well, Tyrese Halliburton, because he was a former first-round pick, that essentially is your first-round pick, and Buddy Hield, better. Like, no, I would have loved a first-round pick from this deal too. Like, I don't understand how the Pacers weren't able to do it. I was a little bit upset with that when I first saw the trade, because I really, like, a multi-time All-Star, 19, 12.5, 5 assists over the last 2 seasons. A lot of people forget he was averaging like 7.5 assists per game last season, like close to 8 assists before his teammates just completely went down all of last season, and his assist numbers still went down, but he still averaged like, I want to say 6.5 last year, which for Jokic is the only big man averaging more assists per game than Domantas Sabonis. I think he is pretty talented. I know he's not necessarily athletic and he's not, amazing defensively, but hey, how many guys do we forgive for that? Like, honestly. So Sabonis, I think, supremely talented, supremely smart, supremely intelligent player. I think they could have gotten a little bit more, but that's not to say that it's a bad deal no matter what. I think at the end of the day here, I'm not going to disagree. It's a W for the Pacers. This is the Kings way, kind of like you joke, Chris. Like, this is their way of going all in for that 10th seed, baby. And De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis, I mean, hey, game 1 worked. They beat Minnesota. Technically, Minnesota's a 7th seed, so they just beat a play-in team,
It's a good point.
But I do think that obviously Sacramento gave up the wrong guy. And maybe they had to give up Halliburton. Maybe they just wanted to keep all their first-round picks. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with that organization. We're talking about organizational retooling. Like, they just need new management there, new everything at this point if you're the Sacramento Kings. Again, for the Pacers, loved it. Just really wish they could have gotten a first-round pick. I think they could have handled that a little bit better. If they trade Buddy Hield for a first-round pick this summer, I will stop, because then you make up for the pick there, because Buddy Hield is not long for Indiana after the season. At least he shouldn't be. He should be sent to a real team, a contending team at some point. Kind of like you guys joke. I think he was in college when we were in high school, so I'm not going to say
it's a good point. Yeah,
rumors, but he's been in trade rumors for a long time. Like, he was traded before, like, I think he was traded in his rookie season. I think that's when that DeMarcus Cousins thing happened.
Yeah.
So, but like Buddy Hield, no stranger to being moved around here a little bit, but still a really good player. And I think Indiana could get a first round pick out of him. But yeah, those are my thoughts on. I just had to make it clear because some people think I'm misunderstanding. I love Tyrese Halliburton. I think it's a W for the Pacers. I just think they could have negotiated for a bit more.
You know what I think it is, bro? I think they weren't expecting Halliburton, so that they didn't want to ask for more, because maybe that would have turned the Kings off. because they maybe don't want to push the luck. They're just like, oh shit, we'll get Halliburton, fine, screw
Right.
it.
And
So
again,
I don't think
if
they
they
were
trade
intending for that.
if they trade Beal, Jesus, if they trade Healed, I'm cool with it because then I know you'll get the first rounder back. I'm just saying, I'm a big asset management person. I'm all about maximizing the assets you have, and that includes the people that you end up needing to trade. If they
Yeah.
I don't think this was necessarily maximized because I said this for CJ McCollum. You were able to I believe the Blazers could have gotten a little bit more than just a first round pick and essentially Josh Hart back for CJ McCollum. Like that's essentially what that trade is. Josh Hart and a first for CJ McCollum. In what world? After a guy averaged 20 points per game over the last 7 seasons. In what world? So I think I'm just saying the teams that are trying to rebuild here, I think they could have done a little bit better. But of course, obviously, Pacers franchise guard
Yeah, and you also get them for the next 7 years. So that's the thing. And also, they did get picks back from the Cavs. So they did actually stockpile some assets, well, draft capital especially.
True. I just want more. With the draft, it's never a bad thing to just stockpile. We see what OKC's doing.
Yeah, I also think it'll be easier to trade Healed in the offseason because with the draft coming up, you'll know who has which picks. So maybe that'll be easier. Because I don't think Beal's going to stay there long term. Even though I do think he'd be really him and Duarte next to Tyrese Halliburton with Rick Carlisle's offensive schemes. That could be lethal. Maybe Warren comes back and Miles Turner at the 5, stretch 5, whatever. Okay, let's move on.
I'm just going to run through the other trades that happened here really fast just so we can get to the main show in and of itself. We'll probably go more deep into this. We'll probably mention these teams as a winner or losers as we get closer to the NBA playoffs, at least for some of them. The Boston Celtics traded Bol and PJ Dozier for a future second-round pick from the Orlando Magic to get under the tax.
Mm-hmm.
And a big reason that they did that was because they ended up trading Romeo Langford, a protected first-round pick, and Josh Richardson over to the San Antonio Spurs for Derek White. Again, I'm not going to give too much breakdown right now. We'll probably talk more about that in a future episode. Again, when these teams are going to get closer to the playoffs, because that's what Boston is. They're a playoff team. The Washington Wizards were busy boys today. They traded Montrezl Harrell to the Charlotte Hornets for nothing and nothing, aka
good move for the Hornets.
Vernon Carey and Ish Smith, and specifically nothing with Ish Smith. And the Phoenix Suns made a couple trades. They also got Aaron Holiday, who was on the Wizards, so complete blow up by the Washington Wizards today. Well, not complete. Bradley Beal's still there, but he's hurt, so there. And they also got Torrey Craig in a trade as well. I think we could all agree just a championship team making small veteran moves, getting some guys. Again, not going to go too much into it, but good trades there. The Spurs and Raptors also made a deal. Goran Dragic and a protected first-round pick to the San Antonio Spurs. Dragic is expected to be bought out. Toronto Raptors get Thaddeus Young. They had Eubanks, but they already waived him, and they also got a 2020 second-round pick via the Detroit Pistons. The protections on the first-round pick, if it does not convey into a first for the Spurs the next 2 years, it's going to become 2 seconds. So there's that. And the big 14 deal that happened, break it down as simple as can be. The Milwaukee Bucks got 2 second-round picks, Serge Ibaka, and some cash. The Sacramento Kings, they kept dealing. They got Trey Lyles, Josh Jackson, and Dante DiVincenzo. I actually do like the Dante DiVincenzo.
I like that a lot for the Kings, actually.
Yeah, it kind of supplements because they lost Halliburton. Obviously, DiVincenzo will not be as good, but it kind of supplements a little bit of that loss there.
Yeah.
The Clippers got Rodney Hood and Semi Ojeleye. Don't really care much about Ojeleye, but at least Rodney Hood. From their trades, they got Norman Powell, Robert Covington, and Rodney Hood. The Clippers just building up on wing pieces right there. And the Detroit Pistons got Marvin Bagley III. He goes from Sacramento to Detroit. That poor soul. And yeah, that's about it. So, Chris, to the main deal, please.
Yeah. I do like Bagley to the Pistons, though. It's a good young asset for them. All right, main event time. The one that got all the headlines. Ben Simmons has been traded to the Brooklyn Nets for James Harden. Fellas, well, let's get the full details out of the way, actually, because this is important right now. So James Harden and Paul Millsap, I believe, are going to Philly in exchange for Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, and a unprotected 2022 first-round pick and a protected 2027 first-round pick. Put my notebook to the side. Fellas, this is a conversation starter, to say the least. So let's talk about... Look, the Nets gave up a lot of draft capital to get Harden, right? And they lost a lot. So I do think those two, and specifically the 2022 unprotected first-round pick, it's nice to get one of those picks back, especially when there's no restrictions on it. So big W for them. Andre Drummond is a glorified backup center. I guess he gives like a body in the post for the Nets. I mean, no one is really their center, so like it's an improvement. How good is Andre Drummond? And in the playoffs he's virtually non-existent. Come on, Nets fans, don't try to kid yourselves. But again, improving from what they had. So already there, you can be your backup center if you go small, ball 5 to start off. But yeah, I thought that was a decent pickup for them. Seth Curry is the big one here in terms of the side piece. I think another shooter next to Simmons, next to KD, next to Kyrie. He'll be extremely valuable. Seth Curry's one of the best shooters in the NBA. I think that was a big loss for the Sixers, but they had to, I guess, include him to get this deal done right away. And then Ben Simmons goes to Brooklyn. I mean, let's talk about that. Paul Millsap, whatever. This had to have happened. I mean, there was rumblings that James Harden was wanted out. There was so much smoke, and then yesterday, Windhorst said, yeah, Harden wants out, and then Woj is like, oh, I haven't heard anything about that. It comes out today that James Harden does indeed want out. Just didn't want a public backlash from requesting a trade 2 years in a row. Guys, I will say this, like, the Nets they got good assets out of this trade. So, and I think a lot of people are seeing that. It's like, oh, well, the Nets actually, they got, a good amount for Harden back. I agree. I think when you're determining the winner for this, who got the best player? And I think the Sixers got the best player. Let's talk about, so Ben Simmons hasn't played all year. We all know what the scenario is. He's going to be playing with Kyrie and KD. He adds an element of defense that the Nets desperately need. He'll take a lot of defensive pressure off KD. So he becomes your main defensive anchor. He's going to be huge. Kyrie, I think, will be resuming the shooting guard roles for this team, and I think Ben Simmons will be the primary ball handler. He'll find them with ease. I think it's the character fits here. This is where I think it's going to be sus with Ben Simmons. Like, I don't know how that locker room's going to go with those two. I mean, you're playing in the New York market. Now, again, it's Brooklyn. They don't really have fans. Technically, like, they don't have, the Nets don't have fans. But you're still going to be in the New York market, especially when the playoff comes. Things will be heated up in terms of headlines. Not sure how this is going to be chemistry-wise. Could be dead wrong. They could welcome him with open arms. Maybe it'll be a good fit. I don't think the Nets are an overwhelming favorite now. Because I think with Harden, with Kyrie, and KD, those three fully healthy and playing together, no one's stopping them. But now, one of the heads is cut off from the snake. And character fits one thing. We don't know how Ben Simmons will perform in the playoffs. We don't know. KD's hopefully will be good and ready. Who knows what will happen with Kyrie. Long term, I don't get it, but let's just talk about the fit. I have to see it to give you a good perspective, but Ben Simmons fills in a role as the primary ball handler and, most importantly, the defensive anchor. For the Sixers, we get why they did it. They had to have capitalized on Embiid's prime, and especially this season because he's playing like an MVP. I think he's a lead candidate for MVP. They give him James Harden. That pick and roll is going to be lethal. Man, I think obviously losing Seth Curry is huge, but you kept Tyrese Maxey and you kept Matisse Thybulle. Huge plus on that end. James Harden, he's going to be playing with Joel Embiid. This is going to be lethal. Offensive pressure is off Joel Embiid. He's going to have someone to defer to a little bit when he's fatigued. And yeah, I think this is huge for the longevity of Embiid. They have a guy that they could go to make that last shot. Not saying that Embiid's not capable, but Harden is Harden. So I think it's a plus for both sides, but I'm just going to go with the Sixers as being the clear winner here because, who knows how Ben Simmons is going to look like after all this time off and with Kyrie and KD, especially in the locker room. Sixers got the better player, in my opinion. I think he's going to fit beautifully next to Embiid. He made Clint Capella a $20 million man. Now he gets arguably the best center in the NBA, depending who you talk to about Jokic. But that's going to be a lethal duo. They keep their young guys. Guys, huge trade. Now I think the East, there's no overwhelming favorite. I think there's someone that you could say is slightly better, but it's between the Nets, the Bucks, the Heat, and the Sixers. But just in terms of this trade, I think I'm going to go with the Sixers for the W here. Dame, let me go with you first. Thoughts on this trade and the ripple effects?
Yeah, obviously this is last week. This was a trade we were expecting. Maybe there was rumblings here and there that James Harden was unhappy, but we thought maybe it would result in the offseason, something happening there. But none of us expected this to happen this quickly. And obviously not. When we were talking about Ben Simmons trade in the beginning of the season, throughout the season, we were talking about like Buddy Hield, like just Buddy Hield and Marvin Bagley,
Yeah.
or just De'Aaron Fox or stuff like that, or just get anything you possibly can. And man, big props to Daryl Morey because he waited out all this time. He took all this heat. Everyone telling him, bro, just get rid of Ben Simmons. Like, just get what you can. Just get rid of him to just get rid of that headache. But no, Daryl Morey held his ground. He didn't care what anybody else said. He was going to wait until he got what he wanted. He didn't care. He didn't care what Ben Simmons camp was saying. He didn't care what the media was saying. He didn't care about anything. He was going to stick to his principles, and he got, at the end of the day, what he wanted out of a Ben Simmons trade. He wanted a top 25 player. He got arguably a top 10 player in the entire NBA, and arguably one of the best offensive players in NBA history. Obviously, he had to add like Seth Curry and a couple draft picks and stuff, but that's obviously we're gonna have to do when a guy like Ben Simmons is the main factor in the trade, and hasn't played all year. Yes, I'm going to go with the 76ers as a winner in this trade, but I don't think it's a clear favorite. I think it's just a slight favorite. And the reason I'm going to say that is because I think Ben Simmons, if he had to go, Stephen A. Smith said this, so credit to him, but I think if there was two teams that Ben Simmons could go to that are perfect fits for him, he could really turn around. I think it's the Nets and it's the Warriors. I just think he fits what they need and the things that they do because the Nets need defense, and what they got with Ben Simmons is arguably the best perimeter defender in the entire NBA. And you pair that with arguably the best offensive perimeter player in NBA and Kevin Durant, like you have a dynamic duo out there. And obviously, a lot of it's going to come down to Kyrie Irving, whether he wants to get vaxxed or not and all that kind of stuff. And if Ben Simmons could just get his mental state right and maybe get a little bit of a jump shot. But I think if all this turns around for the Nets and Ben Simmons turns around, Kyrie turns around, they kind of fit together. I think that they're honestly the favorites in the entire league because of the kind of players they put together with the defense and the offense, compared to what they had with James Harden when they had all three all together and they didn't have enough ball for all these guys. So I think for the Nets, it's all going to come down to what these guys turn out to be. But because of the potential that there is for that, and because of these draft picks that they did get in the trade, they could also trade. Obviously, they didn't trade them away before the deadline, which they try to do. But they could trade these draft picks away in the offseason to make their team even better. And obviously, like you mentioned, adding guys to Seth Curry off the bench is just like another Patty Mills to have for them that could spread the floor for Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, all these other guys. So I think that's very beneficial for them. But at the end of the day, I'm just going to give the edge to the 76ers because they got the better play in the trade. The guy who's been playing all year long, the guy who doesn't have this off-court drama and not being able to know how to shoot, and just big props to Daryl Morey for sticking his ground and getting what he wanted for Ben Simmons this entire time.
I am first off, I'm with you. I'm with you right here, Daryl Morey. I was by your side. I said you wait. I said Ben Simmons is the piece that you get an all-star back with. So many people criticized that. So many people were not on that side. And I'll admit sometimes Ben Simmons got on my nerves. But the real ones stick it out in the end. Me and Daryl Morey, we think alike, except, he sometimes still makes the other stupid choices. But this was not one of them. So from both sides, Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, and the two picks. There was a report at one point that the picks were going to potentially be used by Brooklyn more at the deadline for more trades. I guess nothing ended up materializing, at least now. I think it's happened in the past where maybe like a day later, like a trade actually got in at the last second. I don't think it'll happen this time. I think we're all set. So perhaps in the offseason, Brooklyn reloads a little bit depending on who they end up keeping. Keep it simple. Andre Drummond's just a body. I'm not that big of a fan of his, but him just being a body for that team that needs a little bit more on the interior is good. Seth Curry's another shooter. Him, Patty Mills, Joe Harris. You need shooters around KD, Kyrie, and Ben Simmons, especially Ben Simmons, because remember, Kyrie's going to be still out here for a little bit. Kevin Durant is injured. Well, Kyrie can only play certain games. KD's out for a little bit. Ben Simmons is going to need all the shooting he can. But I think it was a great deal for the Brooklyn Nets. For Philly, I've seen a report saying they might buy out Paul Millsap, so we'll see what happens there. But of course, James Harden is that guy they want to put around Embiid. I see a lot of people saying that Embiid is too ball dominant, Harden being too ball dominant is going to be a problem. I don't think so. I think both guys want someone to take the offensive load off them. I think the thing with Harden this year is that he got sick and tired of Kevin Durant being out and Kyrie with this whole vaccine thing. The big three only ended up playing 16 games together. Him and Embiid are Embiid has been healthy this season, probably the healthiest he's been throughout his career. The two of them get some chemistry. They get going for one another. I think the 76ers are going to be good. They have a team here. Like I said, they'll be candidates because now they need a backup center. If Tristan Thompson gets bought out, as he probably should, because there's no reason for Indiana to keep him, I think that Tristan Thompson could be a guy they get. Philly just loves having bad centers as backups now. Aside from Dwight was a good backup. But yeah, no, I think this is a win-win deal. Both sides got exactly what they wanted and needed, because at the end of the day, Harden was most likely going to leave. I think that's why the Nets ultimately made this deal, because they think he was going to leave. Like, I know a lot of people mention the fact of how much they gave up. Look, let me tell you something. If we go back in time and we tell OKC, hey, no matter what, Durant's going to leave you this offseason, I bet you they trade him, because you don't want to lose a superstar for nothing. It's just a fact of life. You lose something for nothing, egg on your face, joke's on you. Brooklyn didn't want to lose him for nothing. Is this the max they probably could have gotten? No. This situation forced a hand a little bit. Yeah, they wanted more, sure. But at the end of the day, you got to settle. And Steph Curry's good. Andre Drummond at least is fine. Ben Simmons is the key piece, defensive player of the year candidate when he's out there. A couple first-round picks here. At the end of the day, it doesn't look great in hindsight, but they have to do what they have to do for their team, for their chemistry. I think it's what that had to be done. And for Philly, they get that superstar, Embiid and Harden. Let's go. Good luck to them. You're going to lose to Miami in 6. Heat all the way, baby. Let's go. And there's that. But at the end of the day, I think it's a win-win for both sides, the way I look at it.
Yeah. If it makes you feel any better, Jurg, I have the Heat coming out the East.
Let's get it, baby.
Yeah. I think, both teams, it's won the trade, but for the sake of the show, we'll go with Sixers because they got the better player. You just never know with Simmons. You never know with Kyrie. I know what we got with KD, though, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how it fits for the Nets more so than the Sixers. Who knows? Look, all I know is that KD's going to be out till at least after the All-Star break. Kyrie is only going to play in a select few of remaining games of the season, because I think most of the games are at home. And it's going to take a bit, I heard, for Simmons to get back on the court, to get acclimated. Who knows? But, a change of scenery, mental health becomes way better. Am I right? You get rid of all that toxicity. I'm pretty sure Harden will lose a couple pounds now that he gets to go to fucking Philly. Yeah, but hey.
Oh, look who has the fat jokes now.
I had to join in on the theme, baby.
I
had to join in on the theme.
That's not even fat.
It's a heel episode this week, just full of heels. I had to complete the trifecta.
Just one heel.
I had to complete the trifecta. Look, Nets are losers of 9 in a row. Hey, man, if you don't got Ben Simmons for a while and Kyrie part-time and KD's out for a bit, oof, we're looking at that play-in, baby. They'll be fine, but it just depends on which place they'll be in when it comes to the playoffs. So, yeah, what a day. What a deadline. Kind of underwhelming, but that move kind of just blew everything up and just made everything worth talking about. So, yeah, that'll be it for this week. Jurg and Dame, excellent job as always. Jurg, where can they find us on the socials, bud?
Guys, you already know it is the @SomeWhatSports Instagram page. Big things, this trade deadline discussion that we had. Super Bowl coming up, of course. Our predictions are going to be on there, and we're going to post the poll game day to see what you all want to think and believe. And of course, the analysis video will be up on the YouTube, of course, and of course, it is the Somewhat Sports YouTube page where you can listen to the podcast and certain announcements regarding the future of the podcast coming out real soon. But you can only see the announcement if you follow us on IG. So make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe on YouTube, and follow, like all the posts, comment on the posts, vote on the polls that we put on IG. Share this podcast. 2022 is a big year. It is the year of rebirth and reclaiming. We will be reborn this year. We have reborn the style on the post because we have an amazing graphic design guy. And at the end of the day, we shall reclaim the title that we never lost. The greatest sports podcast in the world going right now. That is the Somewhat Sports Podcast.
Beautiful as always. I'm ready to run through brick walls for you, Jurg. All right. Said it before. I'll say it again. Jurg and Dame, wonderful job as always. Thank you very much to all the listeners. If you made it this far, we appreciate the life out of you. Can't thank you enough. And until next time, peace.